surface it looks fine. At the core it's such a bored with a somewhat normal life.
You know I know a little bit about you. Still tripping on the conversation like it's past due, but it's all news.
Chalk it up to sinking in.
Hello and welcome to the newest episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. Today's guest is an indie pop dance duo from Chicago and Philadelphia. They've been working together virtually to put out 3 new songs in 2021 alone. I'm incredibly excited to talk to them, but before we get this episode started, please make sure to like and subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And you can also follow me on @onthatnote_podcast. And on that note, please welcome Popcoin. I'm sitting here with Aaron Black and Des Martin from the indie pop dance duo Popcoin. Thank you guys for joining me today for an episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. I'm really excited to talk about the creative process behind your newest single, Break. But before we get into the music side of things, I gotta ask you guys, what inspired getting the matching onion tattoos?
Oh, well, there's actually a story behind that. When me and Des met in Chicago at Columbia College Chicago in 2013 or 2014.
14, yeah.
And within the first week, we both got matching stick and poke tattoos on the back of our thigh. And it was just a frowny face. And Des got sick of his after like 3 years. And he said, dude, we need to cover these up. So we just decided, what do we like the most? We like onions.
We like onions, yeah.
So we got matching onion tattoos instead.
So you turned the frown not quite upside down, but into an onion.
Lost you there, Parker. I can't hear you.
Yeah, you're muted now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there
Now
you
I
are.
can hear you. Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Okay. Damn. I was like, wow, that joke did not land.
What did you say?
What was the joke?
I
What'd you
said
say?
you turned that frown not quite upside down, but into an onion.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened.
Exactly what happened.
I'd
Yeah,
love
we were
to hear
both
that.
we were both cooking on the line at the time. That's
Okay.
why. Yeah.
So you guys both big chefs?
Des is.
A little bit,
I'm
little bit.
I'm a little chef.
Well, I guess onions better than nothing. I'm a big fan of onions. It took me a long time to get into vegetables, I feel like.
Hell
I
yeah,
don't
me
know if
too,
that's-
dude.
Really? I didn't start eating them until like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I'm 24 now, so.
Yeah. No, it took me until like after high school to
Yeah,
realize
I
how
gave
good
Aaron.
onions are.
I gave you so much shit for just like eating mac and cheese your whole life and stuff like that.
I'm
It was
still.
like,
I mean, it's how I was raised, like jarred ragu and Kraft mac and cheese. You know. But
I was a chicken nuggets guy myself, always. Hamburgers, yeah, the whole deal.
Yeah,
But
no.
sometimes you need somebody to give you that shit so that you can break out of your
yeah, you
routine.
gotta break the mold somehow.
Hey, speaking of break, what a great transition.
Whoa.
Into,
boy, oh boy.
It's almost like I planned that.
Whoa.
Into your newest single, which was released May 17th. I heard it on Spotify's Fresh Finds playlist, and immediately it was like, these guys are sick. It's incredibly well produced, great
Thank you.
dancey vibe. And I know when I talk to people on this show, like some people are a little bit more ahead of others. Some people are just starting out, and I have learned that getting on these editorial playlists do like wonders for people. So
yeah.
for the
It's true.
artists who are listening to this, wondering how they get on that, how did you guys find yourself there? Do you have any advice for artists when it comes to getting on these playlists?
Yeah, well, I think for us the main thing I keep coming back to is that we got really lucky first and foremost. We got our first single we put out, Talk, back in January, I think. We were submitting it to blogs and like little like independent Spotify playlisters and stuff like that, and it actually it just got picked up without us pitching directly to Spotify, which is what you usually do on one of their smaller fresh finds like indie playlists or something like that, I think.
Indie,
and
yes.
then yeah, and then since then we just started for questions, and then for Break as well. You can pitch directly through Spotify for artists, and we were doing that, 4 weeks out before release, and we waited a little bit of time after each release, and lo and behold, it ended up on there.
It's to me, it's always been kind of a wonder how you get there. A lot of people have different ways of doing it. Did you use any kind of website to get there? Because I know Submit Hub is a thing. Or
Yeah,
did
we
you
used.
just
We did use Submit Hub, but independently of Submit Hub, they just, I guess, picked it up.
gotcha? Nice. Yeah, I've to me that's always been something that for years I tried to figure out, and thankfully to a previous On That Note guest, Sam Eagle, big shout out to him. He gave me a whole breakdown of how he's gotten his on playlists, and it was totally valuable. So I'm trying to make sure that the listeners kind of are, they learn that kind of stuff too, because it is important if you're trying to get streams.
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta go back and listen to that because I've been trying to figure out this whole time how to just extend this as far as possible and like keep the momentum going, keep the ball rolling, and like I feel like such a big part of it for us was luck, honestly.
Huge part of it was luck. And just doing what we like and finding out that people enjoy that we enjoy it.
Yeah,
was a huge part of it too.
We do like to think that the music that we make is like 100% genuine, and that's another reason these three singles are all like completely almost musically independent. They're because we're just like we didn't go into this with any kind of genre in mind for Popcoin. We just kind of were like, okay, we make a ton of music. Let's just make music together and just release whatever comes out of it, and I think that shows.
So, what was the writing and recording process for this new song, Break? I know that you guys work virtually. Aaron, you're in Philadelphia, Des in Chicago. How does that work? What are some of the pros and cons of doing that?
Well, we do everything over Discord. We have our own Discord channel where we send snippets and stems back and forth, and we'll hop on VC and just like show each other shit we're working on. And then usually what happens is I'm more of a producer and Des is more of an instrumentalist. So we'll just start new things. We'll start sending them back and forth, little ideas. And then one of us will be like, I can write to this. Des will be like, I can write to that. And then usually Des will send me over bass or keys or vocals, and I'll just chop them up and throw them in. That's basically how it works. Aside from that, we're kind of winging it.
That's cool to hear because, I mean, your music sounds so well produced. And a thing to talk about with people a lot on this show is the idea that you don't have to go into a big studio to create something that sounds really good and something that you really enjoy. And for y'all's case, it's even more interesting because you're not even in the same room. You're on different ends of the country, and you're able to send these stems to each other to make something crazy.
Absolutely. Well, there are like obviously drawbacks to that. I don't feel like we're as productive as we could be being in the same room. I actually just recently went out to Chicago and visited Des and some other friends, and we were in the same room, and in like 3 days we started like 4 new songs, which is like way more than we've been doing remotely. So I mean, it goes without saying that it helps to just be in the same room with somebody, but I think we've done pretty well notwithstanding.
Do you guys think any time in the future you'll set aside a week to just like get an EP done or something like that together?
That's been part of the plan since the beginning.
Nice. Speaking of the beginning, you've really only been releasing singles as Popcoin since the beginning of 2021. So it's very, very recent. What spawned you guys to start this project?
Well, we've been making music together since we met way back in 2013, back in Chicago. We both lived out there for like 4 years, give or take, and we tried to start a band together out there. We couldn't really find a drummer, but we had been just doing stuff like on and off forever. And I don't remember exactly what was the catalyst for Popcoin, but
I do.
Go ahead, tell them.
So what happened was we were going to meet in New York. Do you remember this? We were going to meet in New York to do studio stuff before the pandemic kind of ruined everything. And we said, well, that's stupid. We should just do this anyway. We should just figure out a way to do it. So we did, and that's it.
And then Popcoin was all virtual from there.
Yep, 100%.
More or less, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. It really is amazing the kind of technology that we have to be able to do things like this and to be able to get our songs heard on things like the Spotify Fresh Finds playlist, like back in the day, maybe 10, 15 years ago, it was really like you had to go play shows, you had to go tour, you had to make the merch and, really get on the ground, which in its own way, I think is, of course, a great way to build a fan base and a more personal fan base. But, maybe not as many people are going to be able to hear your stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is crazy. I mean, when you think about it, we're only like a few milliseconds of latency away from a live performance from two different cities.
Yeah, see, when you put it like that, it's wild. So for you two, what would you say is the favorite part of the creation process for y'all?
Me personally, my favorite part is when I'll start working on something and I'll get stuck and I'll kick it over to Des and Des will just send me some unbelievable riff or just an iconic vocal line or a chorus or something that will just open the entire thing up completely.
I would say the same thing. Like Aaron would send me something that I couldn't conceive, and it just changes the game. So it's awesome. That's a really fun way to work. 4 years is great. It's so much easier.
There's something about having that energy or that chemistry with someone where you feel like if there's that seed, that perfect seed of something that can turn into a full-fledged song, you recognize it immediately and you like know where to go, and it's almost like mind reading.
Yeah. It's pretty psychic sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just cool that we can do this. I think a big part of it is just that we like hanging out and, music is language. So we're just talking, honestly.
Yeah. And I've been talking I talked with Josh Mason. He was another guest on this show. And his advice for people was like, when it comes to collaborating with people, he's like, don't worry about trying to find the person who you think is going to like take your shit and blow it up. It's like, work with your friends, work with the people who you really vibe with and just have a good connection with outside of music more than anything. Because if it's not genuine, you're not going to make music that sounds genuine. It's going to sound like you're trying to make something that just blows up for the sake of blowing up.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I back that 100% because the whole reason me and Des were able to get the ball rolling so quickly from the beginning is because we were already on the same wavelength, because we've been friends and we've been in communication, been talking, and then we just pulled the music back into it, and it was already there. Like we already knew how each other worked and thought and like felt about music,
Do you guys have pretty similar music tastes, or are there kind of some eclectic things going on there?
They're very similar.
There's a lot of crossover, and then there's shit that, I might listen to that Aaron won't, and Aaron would listen to, but I wouldn't. But yeah, through and through, there's so many sensibilities that we share, and I think that's more important than taste.
So between you two, what would you say are kind of the most important aspects when it comes to creating a Popcoin song?
It's hard to say because like I said before, it's just there's no plan when we go into any single or any project. It's just what we want to do. It's just what we think is good. So I guess that's the most important part, is that we love it.
Just at its very basic core. I mean, you don't have to explain it too much more than that. If it makes you dance and it makes you feel something, then
if
that's really all that matters.
It sounds good, then it is good.
How did Break start? Like, what was the seed of that there?
Oh my God. So yeah, we did 25 versions of Break.
Wow.
The first 10 versions were in a different key.
Yeah, I think they were a whole 5 steps up from what it ended up being released as. And the way we actually ended up changing that is, I remember we were working on it. We were on version like 12 or 13, and Des posted a story of like a clip of Break, and it had like a pitch shifter on it, just the story itself. It had an audio pitch shifter that shifted it down 5 steps. And I listened to it and I was like, holy shit, it sounds so much better. So I took the whole project
Wow.
and I just shifted every pitch down 5 steps, and it was just the happiest accident. It was crazy.
Dude, thank God for Des doing that. That's
I know.
what a happy
I think
accident.
about that. I think about that all the time. Like, it would not have been the same song.
It's crazy. Yeah.
You might still be working on it, trying to figure out what the secret sauce is if you never
It's
did
possible.
that.
Yeah. Well, that happens to me all the time. I feel like 90% of songs that I've worked on, it's like it'll be going in one direction, and then just something, I'll notice something or something, I'll do something accidentally that'll sound really good, and you just got to be able to like grab that and like ring that out when you hear it, you know? Especially if you're like at a dead end, which is usually where I end up when this happens.
Yeah, I was talking. I keep referencing other on that note episodes, but that's
great.
At this point, I've talked to so many people. I've learned so many things from different people.
Yeah.
It's pretty like
It's awesome.
mind blowing.
Yeah.
And giving a shout out to Elliot Moss here. He used a really great visualization for me when it comes to songwriting or production or really whatever. It's like a maze, and you're just going through the maze, and eventually you're gonna hit a wall, and it's like you can't just keep hitting that wall. You got to go left or you got to go right. And maybe another way of looking at that is like, you know, like water like running through a river. Like just because you hit the rock, it's like you got to go around it. It's going to go around it. So you should be fluid and not so like, you know, having your blinders on, thinking that your song has to be this one thing. Sometimes this crazy idea you never thought of will pop into your head, and you should go with it and just see where it leads, because maybe it's the way out of the maze.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're never gonna break right through it just trying the same thing over and over again. You got to do something weird.
Yeah, you can really exhaust yourself, your mental, your creativity, like that can just be brutal on you. And sometimes you do have to go through it to really learn what that feels like, but the more in tune you get with that creative mind, I think the better you get at it.
Yeah. And it helps to have for me at least, and for Des, what we do, it helps to have a lot of different projects going at the same time. So as soon as you feel that, you can switch it, work on something else, and then come back fresh.
Yeah, coming back with a fresh pair of ears, even just taking a break from the song you're working on if you don't have other songs, if you're like feeling like banging your head against a wall, just take 30 minutes to like go walk outside or whatever, like, and don't sit on your phone. Of course, you know, I say that and I'll probably go sit on my phone for a second as soon as we're done with this interview. But
Yeah.
like, it just helps to, you know, to get out and do different things.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
So, Aaron, I got a question for you because you're in Philadelphia, correct?
Yes, sir.
Well, tomorrow I'm actually coming up to Philadelphia for about a week. So, I need some ideas of, you know, the city, what to do. I'm actually coming up to record an EP with another
Okay.
guest I met on this show, Rubber Band Gun. So I'm really excited
Cool.
about that. But we'll have
That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll have some time, and I've never been to Philly.
Yeah. Well, you know, I can tell you that I moved here at the very beginning of the pandemic, and
Okay.
didn't get out too much. But I will say, if you're into art history, the art museum is incredible. If you're into cheesesteaks, Abner's in University City, Abners, my favorite cheesesteak in Philly.
I do love Philly cheesesteaks.
And I wish I could recommend you some like bars and stuff, but I just really like came at the wrong time.
Yeah, damn, I guess so. That kind of sucks.
And I wish there was like live music going on, because there's a lot of really cool. Philly has always had an awesome local live music scene. There's classic emo acts that have come out of Philly, like Snowing,
Like a huge amount.
Yeah, Snowing, 1994, Algernon, Coddlewater, stuff like that. In the like 4-month span that I was living in Philly and going to local shows before the pandemic hit, I saw like all my favorite childhood emo bands, in somebody's basement, you know, like on my street. Like, it was crazy.
It's fucking wild, man.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I don't know too many emo bands, so you'll have to send me those recs for sure.
Yeah, I will for sure. I used to that's such a huge it's such a huge part of my musical influence, honestly.
Mine as well, yeah. Both of ours, like we love that stuff, like the super twinkly guitar shit.
I grew
with the
up
screaming.
I grew up in New Jersey on like pop punk and hardcore music.
I can't say that was ever much of a phase I went through. Like I
No.
never had that pop punk. Like I have friends that really are into it, so sometimes I'll, hop in their car and we'll listen to fucking Blink and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly no pop punk virtuoso. Same with emo stuff. I hate to say it, but I've learned a lot of bands that I've really come to like over the last year are coming out of Philadelphia, like really experimental, boundary pushing bands like Spirit of the Beehive.
Yes.
You
Holy
like
shit.
them?
Love them.
Have you heard the new record?
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Super
I've
cool.
probably played it more than any album this year.
Word. It's a good one.
I'm gonna have to Des, you're gonna have to send me that one because I haven't listened
It's
to it.
very good. I'll send it to you.
It's called Entertainment Death, so definitely go check it out. It's so wild. Their songs are ridiculous, and their other albums are sick too. And Pedazo de Carne con Ojo, he was a guest on this show, and he's from Philly, as well as The Goodbye Party, another guest who's from Philly. Body Meat, who I love but have not gotten him yet. I'm hoping to get him on the show at some point. But he's like crazy experimental, like dance music, but really hard, almost like EDM, but not in like a poppy way. Like it's very strange, but really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, no, if you're coming back to Philly, like obviously like next week there's probably not going to be too much going on as far as live music, but once you're back after things start moving again, I try and find some local shows.
Gotcha.
That would be my biggest rec.
Nice. Yeah, I'll definitely have to hit up some basement emo shows, no doubt.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome, guys. Well, that's going to take us over to the last 5 here, where I'll just ask you 5 quick questions and we'll be done.
Cool.
All right. Number 1 is Logic or Ableton?
Ableton all the way.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I had a feeling seeing all of Aaron's like pads over there. That seems like something perfect for Ableton.
It's a push. It's made by Ableton.
There you go. That's what I totally knew that. Yep, totally knew that. So why do you guys like Ableton?
Just been using it forever.
Yeah,
honestly.
used it more. I used Logic a little bit for a brief period of time. I just went back to Ableton because I wasn't ready to learn a whole new DAW. The thing about different DAWs is that it's all kind of arbitrary. Like there are little differences between them, but no one DAW sounds better than another. So like I'm not one to get into arguments over it because it's somebody, some of my favorite producers ever use like Fruity Loops, which is something that I'd tried to open up before and I just could not wrap my mind around it because it's so different. But people are making amazing music on anything. People are making amazing music on like a 4-track tape recorder. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Or Audacity. Like
yeah, I guess some people must even use Audacity.
Or their iPhone. Steve Lacy does that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Use GarageBand on your iPhone. Like it doesn't matter.
It's all about the ear.
Madlib recorded a whole album on an iPad. Like
Right.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
yeah, I think one of the Freddie Gibbs albums, I think Bandana or Pinata, he did a lot of the beats, like just made them on an iPad.
Simply on an iPad. Yeah.
Insane. So no reason for arguing amongst each other. Just pick one and enjoy it and get better as a producer.
Yeah,
That's it.
exactly. Get better as a musician and as an artist.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Question 2 is, what is a perfect album to you guys front to back?
One
great question.
Tricks Point Never, Garden of Delete.
I just started listening. Well, I listened to that today in the gym because it's like a fucking hard album. That's funny you bring that up.
There is no album I've ever heard that sounds anything like that album or any of his work, really.
Yeah.
It's pretty intense.
Dez actually put me on to him back in Chicago.
Oh, really?
Did I really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Replica.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's my favorite, but I feel like most people that like him would probably say that.
Yeah, I also listen to that a ton. it just put me in a good space a lot when I was a kid. And he's just grown into some crazy shit. Like, everything he does each year is more impressive in what it is.
It's crazy. He's like hanging
thing.
out. He's like hanging out with The Weeknd now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's awesome.
It
it's
makes me
wild.
so happy to see him like with The Weeknd. You're like, this guy is
he's
so
made
weird
it.
and experimental, and he literally made it
Yeah, yeah,
into the
brilliant.
mainstream.
yeah.
Have y'all heard what's it called? The one, I think it's Returnal, the album Returnal.
Yeah,
That first song, when I first heard it, was like, I had to like throw my headphones off for a second.
that's an
'cause
out-of-body album for sure.
Yeah, it's so strange. And what a way to start off an album with, it's just this insane amount of noise.
Yeah. I would say a perfect album for me, front to back, is Metaphorical Music by DAWs. Like,
Never heard of him.
he was a Japanese producer that died a number of years ago, but he put this out, I think, in 2003, and it's almost like easy listening hip hop, but it's just really immaculately produced and arranged, and it's like I'm still evaluating it every time I listen to it,
He was like,
and
he was
it's
like
just fantastic.
proto lo-fi hip hop beats.
Right, like all the shit that the kids are on now with the YouTube channels, like they're just basically copying that.
Wow.
Which is not a problem. It's cool. But he was like, he knew what that was 20 years ago plus. So,
What's his name again?
Nujabes, Nujabes.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna have
Check
to
it
go
out.
check that out right after this interview. That sounds really interesting that it was 20 years ago that he was
He's like
making
the
this
Jay
kind of stuff.
Dilla of Japan.
Damn, that's
Yeah.
that's quite the high praise.
He dude, he's huge. Yeah.
Nice. Well, question number 3 is, who is your dream artist or producer to work with?
Aaron Black.
Oh,
Ooh,
hyping your
Ooh.
friend up.
ooh,
Yeah.
I can't. Give me another one.
Another question?
No, another
I was
producer,
like,
Des.
bro,
That's
you
not a
can do
real.
it. I know
that's
you
not
can
a
do
real
it.
answer, Des.
Fortet.
Oh, sick.
hell
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That
Hell
would be
yeah.
cool.
The Fortet Skrillex collab, that just came out of nowhere. I was so happy about that.
I did not know that they had a collab. That sounds
They just put out a track. Yeah, it was fun.
Was it more like Skrillex or more like Fortet, would you say?
It was probably more like Skrillex, but it was a house track, and it was
Okay.
just fun. Like, I was like, oh, that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Honestly, for me, it'd be Chuck Sutton because he's an Ableton genius, and I would just like kill to pick his brain.
Okay, I've never heard of him. Chuck Sutton?
Chuck Sutton, if you go like just on his IG, it's just full of knowledge, free knowledge. He is an Ableton genius.
So is he
Like,
just
I-
explaining tips and tricks and things like that?
He like makes audio and instrument racks in Ableton that you wouldn't have ever thought was even possible. Like are you familiar with the OP1 synth?
Yes.
He built or is building an OP1 emulator within Ableton right now.
That's hard to even imagine.
I know. It's he's insane. Like he blows my mind. And he's an incredible producer, singer, and musician in general.
Nice. All right, well, I'll have to look at that IG because that sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
One person that I thought would be really cool if you guys worked with was Nicholas Jar.
Oh, word. I love Nicholas Jar.
Yeah, he's got
He's
so
one of my
many
favorites.
projects, so I wasn't quite sure which one to say, but I guess that's his real name, right? Nicholas Jar.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a favorite project of his?
Yeah, Spaces Only Noise That You Can See, or Spaces Only Noise, whatever the LP is called, from 2011.
What's the is it under his name or is it under like Against
Nicholas
All
Jar.
Logic?
Nicholas Jar. The Dark Side album from, 2013 was really good too. And then I have to listen to the new one. I don't even know if it's out yet, but they're coming back with a new one, so I'm super stoked on that. Yeah.
It's crazy how much he's done, and like working with FKA Twigs too. Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
so sick.
Yeah. He's
Big
got a
shout
good...
out to Nicholas Jar.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, question 4 here is, what is on your musical rotation right now?
Well, we actually have a playlist called The Bag, which you can check out on our Spotify, that is just like the shit we listen to.
It's the most
Nice.
unfocused playlist of all time. It's literally just a dump of everything.
It was, but then I actually started like paying attention to how things are playlisted.
We gotta trim it down.
We gotta change the bag, but the bag has a lot of good shit in it.
Yeah.
So check that out.
Lately I've been listening to a lot of underscores recently. A lot of, I'm gonna be honest, I've been listening to a lot of Don Toliver recently. I listened to I've just been listening to a lot of playlists too. I can't really say. I've been kind of out of like listening to specific artists recently. I'd say Underscores is probably the biggest one that's been inspiring me a lot lately.
I've never heard of them.
Underscores, they're just one kid. They're like 21 years old. And I don't know where they're from, but they make like internet music. Like
It's like hyperpop.
I don't want to say hyperpop. It's like
it's on
like,
that wavelength
it's
of like
all,
being that intense, but yeah.
Okay.
I like them a lot because they do whatever the hell they want to do. They do guitar. They throw like pop punk shit in there, surf rock, hyper pop, hip hop, R&B, like all kinds of shit just into one really really exciting package. You know.
Interesting. What's so cool about technology being available to everyone and being able to make music whenever and wherever you want is that artists are getting, like, big artists are getting younger and younger, I think.
Yeah.
And it's not like because they got on The Voice or American Idol and somebody said that they were like, whoa, this kid's so young, they're so good, you know? Like, it's like just because this one kid started putting out stuff on SoundCloud and now he's huge.
Yeah, the tools are so accessible.
It's amazing, truly. So I'm curious to see how that keeps going in the future, seeing like 12-year-olds
I'm
on
excited.
stage.
I'm excited. I mean, people are just going to keep getting more creative.
Question number 5 is this is the last question as well. What is your favorite decade of music?
It's tough, man.
It's a tough one.
Favorite decade? Des.
What do you think? 2010s? I'm between 2010s and 70s, honestly.
2010s and 70s.
There's so much important music from both decades that I love.
That's interesting. I was gonna say the noughts and the 80s.
Wow. Yeah. Well, they're all important. I just
It's a tough question.
there's
man.
so
Like,
much good shit, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
as far
it's
as influence, right? I don't know, but I would say 70s and 2010s because like that's when I was absorbing most of the musical information, and then
Right.
like I also think like there's some amazing records from 50 years ago that still hold up, and I can't believe that they do, and it's like
Yeah.
Yeah, I would also say the 2010s. That's usually what I think of in terms of being like my favorite, just because, you know, it's hard to separate the bias of when you start really getting into music. That's when I started getting into music and learning about all different kinds of stuff that I enjoyed. And I also think in general, the 2010s, because of technology being so available and the internet getting so big, I think the idea of genre has just gotten like smaller and smaller and smaller because
Definitely.
there's so much amalgamation of genres being thrown into one artist, and then there's, you know, millions of artists around the world, and you can listen to somebody in Vietnam who's just putting out pop punk albums or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, and you can be from Maine. Like, it's crazy.
it's brilliant.
It's amazing, like the inspiration you can get nowadays, whereas you were kind of limited to stuff that was either on the radio or local stuff when it came to, like, you know, even 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's awesome. I still like to look for niches though, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's what really takes an idea and draws it out and does as much interesting stuff as it can with it. I mean, when you find like somebody's website who's like pressing cassette tapes or something, doing something like that, when you leave the DSPs, when you leave like the streaming platforms and you go and you seek out, like, you just go through Bandcamp or something somewhere that somebody's just doing one thing. I love that because especially with now with things becoming so like eclectic and everything sort of blending, there's like new genres being created, you know?
And they're just not really that well known yet. But eventually one or multiple will start to catch on, and then bigger artists will notice it, start copying, not in a bad way, maybe sometimes, but yeah, you're right. Like these things will bubble up to the surface.
There's more unique styles developing now than like ever before.
It's amazing.
It is amazing because it's never been easier to sound yourself, which is like, that's the whole point. If you can do that easier, you're reaching more people automatically.
That's a great note to end it on, I'd say. Popcoin, thank you for joining me for an episode of On That Note. Aaron Black and Des Martin, everybody needs to go check out your new song, Break, on Spotify, all the streaming platforms. And yeah, it's been awesome talking about this creative process and just music in general with you guys. So thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, man.
Awesome. And maybe I'll see you in Philly. I'll hit you up.
Yeah, hit me up for sure, dude.
Will do. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later and have a good one.
All right. Peace
Thank
out,
you.
Parker.
See ya. Bye.
See ya.
I have a dozen different questions.
Thank you again for joining me for another episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. If you haven't yet, please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, and you can even leave a comment down below to let me know who you're listening to. On that note, I'll see you guys next time.
For once, it's getting too crazy for two. Don't wanna pick apart the good things.